Library. So many of you I know have been coming to our programs at the Barrington Village Hall, and we kind of expanded or overran that space sometimes. So this will give us an opportunity when we have a larger population to be able to fit in. And we have our restoration people happy because many of them were busy on Saturday mornings when we had the program. Oh, okay. Know that. Thank you. My name is Peggy Simonson. Some of you know me. I am the chair of the Community Education Committee for Citizens for Conservation, and we're the people that put on these 4 programs. So delighted to hear this morning that you can sign up for all 4 of them at a time. And we don't have to be doing the registration at the door as we did before, so they're doing a lot of the work. The other thing that's really helpful is Sam is doing all of the electronics, connecting between both having the computer on site as well as Zoom, and that's helping us. I know some of you saw us managing that process in the past, which was always an issue. So I am wanting to introduce you to our speakers today, but a couple of announcements first. Be sure you pick up our flyers about the other programs, February, March, and April programs. They're out there on the table, or you can see them online at Citizens for Conservation's website. Our topic next month is drought-resistant native plant gardening, given the droughts we've had the last year. So we have Matt Hawkinson being able to present that. He's the owner of Woods to Wetlands. He's a local expert on planting and maintaining native plants in the landscape. So he knows which plants will survive and which need too much care for the droughts that we've been having. For longer range planning, you can put the dates on your calendar for our native plant sale. The pre-ordering will start on March 1st on our website. And the sale, of course, is the first weekend in May. It's May 1st to 3rd this year. So you can be thinking ahead for that. We've already had our first plant sale planning meeting, so we're getting ready. So now I'm pleased to be able to introduce you our speakers. We've got 3 today. First up is Ellen Smatlack. She's a member of the Community Education Committee and a plant sale volunteer with CFC, but she's also a master gardener and chair of Wakanda's Pollinating Plant Project. So she will help us expand our knowledge and the use of apps for identifying plants. And then I'm going to introduce our other speakers now, so I won't interrupt later. Following Ellen, we have pleased to have our expert birders with us today. Some of you know Barb Karen and Laura Simpson from joining them on their bird hikes all around the Chicago, the forester preserves in the Barrington area. They also conduct bird surveys for conservation groups and are bird monitors for bluebird and purple martin populations. So they'll share a number of apps for birding, including, but not just Merlin that some of us use. So we should have a few minutes at the end of each presentation for questions. I may have to stop you to keep us on time because we've got a lot of topic to pack into our hour and a half today. But we want to have some opportunity for questions after each presenter as well. So, let's welcome Ellen.
When you're ready.
Ready.
This is one of those technical moments.
I will not dance. I could do brook calls.
Please do.
If not, okay. So, welcome to part 1 of today's program. What plant is that? Using apps to get answers. My name is Ellen Smatlack, and I've lived right there in Wakanda for 33 years. I feel very fortunate to have grown up a walk through the woods and a lion's roar away from the Brookfield Zoo, because it was those walks and animals that sparked my curiosity and lifelong passion for nature. When I moved to Wakanda, I was surprised to learn Lake County has the highest number of endangered and invasive species in the entire state. Why is that? Well, We have an amazing high concentration of diverse native plants, birds, and other native species, but because of that, the effects of pollution, loss of habitat, invasive species is much more concentrated in those tight, closed up populations. Like Citizens for Conservation and other organizations are working very hard to reduce or minimize those losses, but really to blanket our whole county with healthy habitat, that's going to require the action of all of us. And while I would love to protect personally every species on the planet, I know I can't, but I've learned I can make a difference in my yard and community. And taking action requires awareness and information. So with our programs today, we are hoping that it will help you explore the nature around you and want to take action. Today, we no longer need to rely on field guides to frantically search to find a match in the book of the plant we're seeing in front of us. Phone apps let us focus on what we're seeing and then provide nearly instantaneous information on that plant. In preparing for this presentation, I found nearly 24 apps for North American plants that you could put on your phone. After reading lots of reviews and trying out many of them, I narrowed my list down to 6 that I'm going to talk about today. I'll cover some highlights of each one, do some comparisons, ask you all to try one out, and cover some tips and cautions for using the apps. Quick show of hands. How many of you in here have ever used your phone to identify a plant? Whoa, excellent. Okay, for those of you online, almost everybody, but not all. And we're going to get the rest of those people involved today. If you haven't gone app shopping lately, you will be amazed at the variety of apps that are out there. They cover a wide variety of interests and abilities, and I hope that when you leave today, you'll want to get outside, look at the world around you in a new way, and even become a citizen scientist. Now, think just for a minute about how you have used or might consider using a plant app. Maybe it's just curiosity. I'm walking along oftentimes and I see a plant I don't recognize. With a click of my phone, I can find out what that is. Or perhaps your intent is more intentional. You want to find out exactly what that plant is because, say for example, I see a plant with a butterfly or a hummingbird on it and I don't know what the plant is. I go, wow, I want that in my yard. Or a mystery plant pops up in my yard and I go, is it native? Is it invasive? Is it poisonous? A plant app can tell you that. And while some of you may think you will never become a citizen scientist, I hope that when we're done today, you change your minds. So the question now is, what app or apps to use? These are the 6 that in researching online, I found to be the most commonly talked about and well rated. So let's take a quick poll, and I'm going to copy down some numbers. When I show the numbers above each of these, those of you in the audience here, raise your hand if you often use the app I list off. How many for number 1? Okay. And those of you online, look at these numbers and type in all of the numbers of the apps you regularly use, and then press enter. Okay, audience, how many for number 2, Google Lens? Interesting, okay. Number 3, Leaf Snap. Number 4, PlantNet. I'm glad to see there's some unfamiliar to many people. Number 5, picture this. And number 6, iNaturalist. Okay, Max, can you do a quick count, or Sam, of the people online who said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Okay, from the count here in the room, this is what we've got. In first place, number 1, Seek. In second place, oh, tie actually, unless more people online vote for it, iNaturalist. In third place, picture this, followed by PlantNet and then Leaf Snap. So that's an interesting result, surprising me a little bit. Let's look at each of these a little bit more. All of the 6 listed here can run both on iPhones and on Androids. The caveat being, if you have an iPhone, you need to have the Google app loaded on your phone first. All of these apps offer a free version, but Picture This and Leaf Snap also come in a subscription version, which offer more features and no ads. You'll see that all of these apps identify plants, which is what I'm talking about today, but many of them also identify a number of other things. Ease of use varies from very, very easy to use to kind of complicated, but you might find after some practice that the complicated ones better suit your needs. We'll take a look a little later. And sharing data means that you need to provide some information to the app so that other users can see your results, can comment on them, and even offer some corrections based on the entries that you made in the app. I'm not attempting to rate them as far as accuracy, because that depends in great part about the condition of the plant you photographed, about where you are, the information you've entered in the app, and the quality of your photos. So let's get started with Google Lens. Many of you, if not all of you, took a photo of my plant over there on your way in, which you see up here, remote audience on the right. If you know what this is, play along with me and keep silent. I'd like all of you to take out your phone, bring that picture up on your phone, and then depending on whether you have an Android or an iPhone, follow steps 3 or 4. It should bring up an identification for the plant. If you're struggling a little bit, see if a neighbor near you can help you out. I'll give you a minute and see if you can all come up with an identification of this plant. I can't help you with iPhones, but if you have an Android, when you are looking at the picture, there should be a little rounded square button down at the bottom that you press and hold briefly, and then I can draw a picture, draw a circle around it, and it brings up the ID. We can practice some more between the presentations. How many of you have been able to bring up an ID? Okay, about half.
Bless you.
Okay, now for the reveal. If you didn't know already, this is Geum triflorum. Here, we commonly call it prairie smoke, but the important thing really that I want you to focus on is the botanical name. The two words that in print are italicized, and the reason for this is if you really want to do something with a plant ID, you need to be specific, and the way to be specific is to know the botanical name. Next, I'm going to summarize some of what reviewers have to say about Google Lens before I go on to compare it to some of the other apps. Reviewers praise the fact that it's very easy to use. You don't need to provide any personal information to get it to work. It's surprisingly accurate for common things, and it identifies, quote unquote, anything. And by that I mean, I often use Google Lens when I'm scrolling through old vacation folder full pic photos, and I see a lighthouse or something and want to know what it is and where it is. Google Lens can tell me that. So it can be used for all kinds of things, not just plants. What people don't like so much is that it's not as accurate on complex or uncommon plants. Because you are providing no information, it can't give the app context to center in on where you geographically are. Often the results contain a lot of irrelevant things or even advertisements to buy this plant. And there is the possibility that your images will be analyzed by Google. Seek is another very easy to use app. The nice thing about it is once you open up Seek, you don't even need to take a photograph. If you just focus on the plant, it will identify it and often show quite a bit of detail about it, what it thinks the plant is. You have the ability to opt out on providing any information, but if you do opt in, it has a fun factor. And by that I mean, it offers challenges like go find a plant that, blah, blah, blah. And then the more you use it, it gives you badges and skill levels based on your results. What reviewers criticize about it is its lack of accuracy, especially for identifying amphibians and snakes. And it makes high-level guesses when it can't be accurate, and it lacks offline features. Picture this is one of the two apps I'm talking about that has a paid version. People praise the fact that with a single photo, it is highly accurate at the species level. You can collect photos without cell phone service working on your phone. And if you buy the paid version, there is a slew of additional features that it offers you. On the negative side, if you don't pay up, it's got a whole lot of ads. It prompts you to upgrade and buy a subscription. And if you go online, you will see that the actual pricing is very elusive until you start to enter your credit card number.
I did it for 1 year. I wasn't continuing enough, so I want to stop subscription. A bit of doing.
That sounds like an Amazon Prime subscription and a lot of other things I've accidentally bought into. Thank you. PlantNet is one of the two apps I'll talk about that is quote unquote good for citizen scientists. And the reason is it makes use of crowdsourced data. It's very accurate, especially with trees or what it calls wild plants. And by that it means that Those plants are out in nature as opposed to something you buy at a specialty garden shop or cultivate in your yard. When you provide information, it's going to filter the IDs by your geographic location, which helps center in on what its recommendations are. And it allows you the ability to add more photos to an earlier ID. Reviewers criticize the fact that it struggles with those cultivated plants and ornamentals. It's quirky if you are offline or have a weak cell signal. It's got limited coverage or reduced accuracy where there are few users because it is using crowdsourced data to give you an ID. And it's got technical problems on older phones. And again, with areas where there are limited users, it might offer you multiple suggestions because it's just trying to guess what you have pictured. PlantNet. Okay. And on this example, you can see in my second picture on the right, the fact that one of the benefits is that it gives itself confidence scores on what it's giving you as the results. So over on the right, it says it's 88% sure of that top result. The last step I'm going to cover is iNaturalist, which many of you said you use. Even though it's probably the most difficult for new users to get accustomed to and use to just get a simple ID, it's one I use a lot and love for many of the reasons that the other reviewers praised. You can do bulk uploads from a camera or from your phone over time. You can add earlier photos to an ID you've taken, so you can create kind of a photo library of a plant throughout the seasons of the year to see how it changes. You do need to provide some information in order to make maximum use of this. And then the suggestions are based on your photo location and the date. Also, if you get an account, it will provide you with reports on what you've seen and analyze those results. And again, it provides the ability to engage in citizen for science projects. What reviewers say they dislike is the challenge of learning how to use it, that its data suggestions are dependent on voluntary experts. It struggles when there's a weak signal. And there is a difference between the product you see on a computer versus what you see on your phone. Your data syncs in both places. However, what they put out on the website is usually a more up-to-date, more feature-rich version than what is on the phone. So that's a little disconcerting to people at times. I had a personal experience with iNaturalist, and that's what really sold me on it and the fact that I could almost be a citizen scientist. My husband and I were out hiking a couple of years ago in Nova Scotia and came upon this plant. I didn't have cell signal. I took a picture of it, got back to our campground that night and was able to upload it to iNaturalist. And the next morning, I got an email from a doctoral student at Purdue saying, I am doing a thesis on thrips on ghost pipes. Can you help me with my research? I can give you all the information you need on how to count thrips, which at that point I didn't even know what they were. They're tiny insects that eat the flowers and suck the nutrients out of the cells. And I would have been thrilled to go out and count thrips. However, we were leaving that morning for a new location, so I could not go back to the forest and count thrips for her. But the fact that in less than 24 hours, 1,600 miles away, somebody was looking at my data and interested just blew me away. So, which app for what? Based on the characteristics that I've just talked about, I've tried to group these in terms of interest level and the kind of audience that might want to make use of them. My advice would be try out more than one. I think you'll see that you can find one that's easy enough for you to use, that satisfies your needs, and you might end up liking one of the more complex ones if it satisfies your needs. Whichever app you choose, I'm going to offer some tips on getting the best possible results. For example, look up how-tos on how to optimize your use of the app and practice. When you take your photo, isolate the subject as best you can. Try to make sure it's in focus and in natural light, and include key features that will help identify it. Because many of these apps rely on just one photo to make an ID. And it's like that story of the 5 blind men and the elephant. Is it a rope? Is it a hose? Is it a trunk? Is it a wall? The more pictures you take, the better off you are in getting a good ID. A few more tips. If you're willing, provide the date and your geographic location. That helps the app focus in on the species that are native to that area. Take multiple images from a variety of angles. And use an indicator size if you can. If you don't have a ruler handy, like I did for this, then putting your finger or a coin or something by it, if you're not disturbing your subject, will help give everyone a sense of relative size. And that is not a leaf, that is actually a moth. For those who want to assure that your ID is as accurate as possible, my recommendation is to copy down the botanical name and then go elsewhere to do more research to confirm that. And a good way to do that is to take the botanical name, put it into a search along with where you are, and then specify the kind of sites you want to search. For instance, site:/edu is going to take you to educational sites, typically universities and so on. Or you might put in Botanic Garden or the Department of Natural Resources for your state. Then you know the results you're getting come from an authority of some kind rather than just somebody else out there looking. Some cautions. Apps and photos are storage hogs. I've already had to upgrade the memory on my phone because of all the pictures I take. In addition, your plant IDs are going to be challenging or more questionable if you are trying to take a picture and identify a very immature plant or leaf. If you're trying to identify sedges and grasses, good luck. Herbaceous plants in the winter, or a specific species or hybrid name, like a cultivated rose. Some other cautions. Do not venture out onto private property without permission, dig up or damage plants, or get distracted when you take photos. Be aware of your surroundings and be safe. And above all, do not eat anything based on an app. So, I hope you are encouraged to get out and try some apps. In fact, Citizens for Conservation wants you all to be a citizen scientist. They have set up an iNaturalist project, and that means a site in the lower left side of my screen that will collect photos and IDs that people enter and use this data to assess the success of their preserves and make suggestions for improvements in the years to come. On the right side of the screen, I've got a couple of links that will give you some great tips on how to use this somewhat complicated app. And now I say, get ready. Spring is just around the corner, and it's a great time to try out a new app or two. I'd like to thank Patty Barton and Luke Dahlberg for the fabulous photos that they provided. And for those of you who want a little more indoor practice before you go outside, we have a number of additional photos over here on the table. So during the break, if you come over here and take a picture, see if your phone can identify it, and then flip the photo over, you will find the botanical name, a common name, and a credit for the photographer who took these wonderful photographs. Any questions? Yes, Max.
I will ask you to repeat the question so the Zoom audience can hear.
Okay, are there any apps that do not use AI for their identifications? With the proliferation of AI these days, I would not be safe saying yes. Does anybody in the audience know if any do not use AI? That would have been my guess too, actually, that iNaturalist uses it perhaps less because it's crowdsourced data as the basis of its identifications, but I could not be sure. Other questions?
I typically
Wait.
No, we were doing that. I typically use Seek, but I don't know that it has a way to tell me the location, for me to put in the location or the site that I'm at.
Have you registered and gotten an account with Seek?
Well, maybe not.
Okay.
Just use it without that?
You may need to create an account in Seek, so then it knows who you are, where you are.
I didn't know that. Okay, thank you.
Try and take a look for that. Yes.
A couple observations. Enjoyed your talk very much. Thank you. But if you're an Apple phone user, if you take a photo, if you swipe up on the photo, it will try to ID it without having to enter it into Google Lens.
Okay.
Simple.
Give that a try.
And then on iNaturalist, the white icon you showed is iNaturalist Classic now. And there's a new one that's called iNaturalist with a green logo. It's updated. And if you just point your camera at a plant, it will suggest an ID without taking a picture.
Okay. That's
So
nice.
check out the new one. And I hardly endorse YouTube videos on how to use iNaturalist. It'll really get you started faster.
Okay, so I'm going to have to check out the new version of iNaturalist, but I love it and like all my photos there because I love the reports. And I mentioned that earlier. If you use iNaturalist and have not looked at the reports that it will produce for your IDs, it's quite amazing to see what quantity of plants versus birds versus fungi. I love to take pictures of mushrooms. And other things that have come up that you have entered, but that's because you've created an account.
So iNaturalist has an algorithm that will suggest an ID, but then experts can jump on and confirm the ID. And if you get 2 or 3 experts, then they call it research grade. It has more gravitas when more people say it. But not everyone who suggests an ID knows what they're talking about. So take it with a grain of salt. Look at that person's account. You know, do they only have a few ID suggestions, or do they have 1,000 ID suggestions? You trust those guys more.
Thank you. Are there any questions online?
I've done several times.
Okay, then we are going to do a little tap dance to make us switch and talk about bird apps.
Wonderful. I loved your story about iNaturalist and when you were in Nova Scotia.
We need to thank Ellen for her presentation. I think everybody learned a little bit or a lot from that. And we have Barb and Karen coming up now, but we had these programs on the same computer. We got to get them switched over before we can get started. Oh, did you just take on that job? I can do it. That we are recording these programs. So if you want to, I'm sorry, I know better than that. We're recording the program so that if you want to go online afterward, I don't know how long it's going to take before it gets up on the CFC website. But if you need to be able to look back at some of the URLs or whatever that were on there, we'll have them online for you.
I have two things to add. One is that if you've been looking at Barb and Laura, when somebody says, oh, our bird experts, you'll see them cringe every time. And I think that is because you know how as you learn more and more and more about a topic, you realize how much you don't know. They know how much they don't know. But relative to the rest of us, they are experts. The other one, and I promised my colleague that I would do a commercial for this. Next Saturday in this room, we will be launching our seed library. We've been doing this for 5 years now, I think. I can tell you that the library staff has packed almost 75,000 seed packets this year. So it begins at 10, from 10 to 1, it's open to Barrington Area Library cardholders. And from 1 o'clock on, it's open to anyone who would like to attend. One moment while I walk over to you so you can pose your question or statement.
Yeah. Is CFC providing any seed for the seed library?
I don't believe that. I think that some CFC members have independently given us seeds, but it has not been together at this point. I can tell you, and just because they deserve a shout out, the Daughters of the American Revolution Signal Hill chapter literally purchased and donated thousands of dollars worth of seeds for us this year, which is fantastic.
Papers.
Is it solid green?
Right.
Okay. Oh, battery bank. Okay, why don't we just use that then? Let's move on. So let's start tap dancing. It's live. It's green. Testing. Oh, sorry.
Oh, we're good. Testing.
Okay, maybe it takes a minute to warm up. Wake up.
All right. Everybody here? Testing?
Just testing. Can you all hear
Okay,
us?
great.
Excellent.
Thank you all for being here. We are going to talk about applications only for birding. So thank you for teaching us all about plant apps. I am Laura Simpson.
I am going to ask you to bring the mics up a little closer to your mouth. It's not coming through the speakers and it's the folks on Zoom can't hear well.
Can you hear us now? Is that better?
We can,
Is that
hear
better?
everybody touching the microphone.
How's that? Better?
That's
Okay.
better.
It's not awkward at all? Okay, so we lead bird hikes for Citizens for Conservation along with Wendy Paulson. We do eastern bluebird and purple martin monitoring for Citizens for Conservation. Breeding bird surveys. Talk loud. Breeding bird surveys for the Bird Conservation Network. And we are by no means tech geniuses. So we'll do the best we can here with helping out, learning about some of these apps.
Very good.
Like Ellen, I need a show of hands. How many of you have used the eBird app? eBird?
eBird, not Merlin, eBird.
How many have used the Merlin app? That's pretty good.
Yep, yeah.
All right, well, hopefully, how many of you have the eBird app but don't use it? Yeah, it's, okay. There's a lot of people who, think it's a great idea and download it and then never use it. So hopefully we'll get everybody on board with that.
All right. So before we get into the apps, we wanted to give a little history of what did people use for rare bird alerts before there were apps. I'm going to play just a little video for you here quick.
Day one, Bostic was up before dawn, focused and ready.
Start the hotline, give your code word at the beep.
Great gray owl.
There's been a second spotting of the netting flycatcher in Patagonia Lake State Park.
Whoa, off he goes. So that's from the movie The Big Year. Maybe some of you have seen it. It's well worth a watch if you haven't. And that's an example of how rare bird alerts were shared before we had apps. Currently, we have dozens of apps, if not hundreds, of bird apps in particular available. But before that was the case, bird enthusiasts, birders, relied on landlines and journals to document their bird sightings. The first reporting actually began very much like, if some of you may remember, if you're my age-ish, how you found out about your child's snow day at school. The room parent had a list of names, they called people who called people, and that's how you knew school was canceled. Well, early birding reporting worked the same way. A birder would get, either have a sighting themselves, or they would hear of a sighting and they would call their friends, who would call their friends, who would call their friends. It did work, but it didn't work in a big way, and it was slow. And if you weren't home that day, you might miss that bird alert. So from there, about in the 1950s, rare bird alert hotlines, or dial-a-birds, came into being. And these were centralized locations for bird sightings. And this is kind of what we just saw on the screen a minute ago. These phone services you would call into. In this case, it was probably a paid subscription because you needed a password. And then you would listen to a recording alerting you to a rare bird. Those hotlines continued on for about 5 decades until they slammed into new technology, the internet. And that changed a lot of things. That's when listservs popped up. And those are email-based discussion groups. I'm sure some of you were involved with them or used them back in the day. And actually, some of them still exist. The one that Laura and I were a part of years ago was IBET, Illinois Birders Exchanging Thoughts. And what was great about it, it was very local. The people posting would give really excellent directions to where that rare bird was. It also was great because it would allow you to discuss birds with other birders, and you sort of built a community. At one time, there were about 1,200 members of IBET.
Still around.
Oh, it is still around, but it's in a different iteration than then. Anyway, ultimately, databases, cellular technology advanced, and that's when Cornell came up with eBird website and the eBird app, which instantly changed things. So it allowed immediate lookup of log birds sightings anywhere in the world. So today's mega rarities, and in fact, all birds in general, are available on multiple platforms and accessible to anyone, anywhere.
Okay, so if you go to your app store, whether it's iOS or Android, and you search bird identification apps, you get just like all kinds of junk, but you don't really know It's hard to differentiate the really good ones from the ones that are just ads, just big ads. So the ones we've chosen here today, we've chosen because of the research behind them. They're science-based. The more science, the better. They have big research institutions, world-renowned birders behind them. So that's why we chose these. This graphic is, all this information is on a handout that's on the table over there. So you can find them with the little icons that you'll see in the App Store, so you know you're getting the right one. Some of them are, sorry, no, that's okay. Some of them are free, some are pay. It's a one-time payment. You can put the guides like on your phone, on your computer. They go across all your platforms. It's broken down, I think, into two major categories. Apps that are for recording your observations while you're out in the field, or apps that are used for bird identification. So we'll go through those next, yeah. Probably the biggest, oldest, most well-known app and website is eBird. And I've been talking about eBird as a whole first. It's both the website and the app, but the website came first. And we'll talk a little bit about what makes them different in a minute. But so why eBird? eBird came out of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. It's free. Who doesn't love free? It uses community science, which contributes to the world's largest biodiversity database. That makes it a very powerful bird conservation tool. It's a united global language or tool that gives us a common language. So anywhere in the world, if you're using eBird, you're talking to other people who are also using eBird, and you all have sort of a commonality there. And it's kind of fun to be out on the trail. When we see another birder and they're on their phone, we'll say like, "Are you on eBird?" And usually they are, and it's kind of fun because then you know you can go and see what sightings they've seen and compare notes, and it just sort of creates a community. And the other thing we like about eBird, sorry,
That's why.
it has real live human reviewers. And some people dread this and some find it very helpful. But if you're putting in a sighting and it's flagged for some reason, it's a rarity, it's in the wrong place, wrong time of year, or it's a large number of birds, it will flag it for the eBird reviewers. And these are local experts who get the flagged sighting, and then they will send you an email.
And we've all gotten them, so don't worry if it happens to you.
And they're asking for more identification, like you know, how do you know it's this bird? And you can either defend it. Sometimes you really hope you just have a picture, and then they'll help educate you about why it is or isn't that bird. So it's really helpful, and it's nice to have that sort of human double check component there. But you get that dreaded email. If any of the platforms under Cornell, eBird, the mobile app, we'll talk about Nest Watch and Merlin, it's the same sign-in. You make one eBird account, you can sign into all these apps. Okay, the history of eBird. The website launched in 2002. The first public eBird list was submitted on May 8th, 2002 by the development team. By the middle of 2025, there were over 150 million checklists that contained 2 billion observations entered by 1.1 million birders from 250 countries. So in 23 years, that's pretty amazing. So they also launched the mobile app in 2015. And 2 years later, they added a GPS tracking component so you can see your track as you hike. So when you go to the website, this is what you'll see. You can put in your username and sign up information, your username and password, and it'll take you to your data. Next. So the website came first. In a nutshell, the website is just basically a deeper dive of information than the mobile app. So on that, louder, still louder.
Do you want to have the mic? You want to use the mic?
Is this any better? How's this? It was backwards. Okay, is that any better? Okay. So when you get into the eBird website, you will find all of your data there. Every bird you've ever entered into the website will be stored there. All of that data is shared to the worldwide database, and you have access to all of that information. It's used for bird conservation research by Cornell. It is very useful if you are traveling and you're planning to go birding. You can put in different bird packs from where you're going. You can research the area you're going to and, see what birds have been seen there. So it's got a lot of places you can explore in the website. You can, even anywhere in the world, you can put in your location that you're going to and search the lists people have put in. You can also search by birds you want to see. So if I want to see a great horned owl, I can type that in and it will show me all the places it's been seen around here. It will not do that for sensitive species. So basically, there's just more information. You can manage your lists there. You can sort them by species, by places you've been, by the years. It'll go year by year. You can put in a life list. If you're a lister and you want to keep a list of all the birds you've seen in your life, you can go back historically and enter those lists as well. And you can set alerts. So if you want to find out what rare birds have been seen in Cook County, you can type that in and they'll send you an email every week telling you for the last 7 days what rare birds have been seen. There's newsletters, research. You can take educational courses all from the website. There is on the main page in the Help Center, which is up in the right-hand corner of the homepage, there's a Help Center. And if you do the drop-down menu and it says Getting Started with eBird, they'll have this eBird Essentials course. And it's tremendously helpful. It's a good place to get started. There's a little video. I don't know if we can play it.
Try and play it? Yep, we'll give it a shot. Did that.
Mm-mm.
One more thing. Nope.
Nope.
Sorry,
Okay.
we don't have a video.
No,
It's not
go
going to
watch the
show it.
tutorial. Okay, so
You might want to just say what it did was it showed, it represented people from literally all over the world talking about why they love eBird. And it just gave you the sense of how global this really is.
yes, thank you. And then, so under the Getting Started, there will be a lot of different tutorials you can take about how to use eBird. Okay. Next to come up was the eBird mobile app, and this was great. When you get the app and go to the go to the first page, basically, it'll have Start Checklist, and if you hit the green bar, it will ask for your location, or it will give it to you by GPS through the latitude and longitude, and it will suggest hotspots nearby that you can put in if you want to. Once you do that, a list will populate of all the birds that are likely to be seen in that area, and you can just begin your checklist there. You can just go down the list as you're walking and type in numbers as you see them. You can also keep a mental list and do it later if you want to. And then it will then show you your GPS track, and it will keep all of your lists for you as well. Some of the differences on the eBird app from the website, it's designed to be used in the field, so it is much more streamlined than the website. It is portable. It can go with you anywhere in the world that your phone goes. You can use it anywhere in the world, and it will give you the information you need for wherever you are. If you're out of cell range, which is frequent when we're out hiking, you can keep the data on the phone, and it will sync up with eBird later when you get back to Wi-Fi or cell service. It is constantly being updated with new data and new features. The new one that we got surprised by last year, we were out on one of our bird hikes, and one of the people was doing eBird as we were walking, and she said, "Wait a minute, it's asking me if I'm sure." And we put in a bird, and it popped up, "Are you sure?" And it's so, you're like, well, okay. But it made us pause and have to stop and really work on identifying that bird and making sure we were sure. And then we're going to get that eBird reviewer email. But it's, that was new. We hadn't seen that before. So it's always being updated. And then the sightings will all be linked back to your main eBird account on the website, and that's where you'll be able to find the data in both places. So that's eBird. Now, Barb is going to talk to us about the life-changing, wildly popular Merlin app.
Yes, indeed. It's a great show of hands of people that have used it, and I'm sure you're enjoying it. It's a great app. This is what the app looks like if you open it or have downloaded and you open it on your phone. A little background for the Merlin Bird ID app. One aspect of Cornell's mission is to help people identify what's that bird. And so when they built Merlin, their challenge was to help making identification a little bit easier for everyone. It was launched in, or one other thing is, this little factoid I just love is how they decided to name it Merlin. The team was scanning through photos, and they came up with a Merlin bird, and that's a Merlin falcon, and that is a small, fierce little bird that bounced back after DDT was banned in 1972, and they paired that with the mythical sorcerer from King Arthur's court, because the team felt like when you fed the information into the app and then it popped up with "that's your bird," that it almost was a magical experience. And I actually completely agree with that. Again, Merlin was launched in 2014, and at the time that it was launched, it could identify about 285 your usual North American backyard birds. So now, just a little over a decade later, it can identify 11,000 birds, and that's nearly every bird in the world. Sound ID is moving right along. It can identify 2,066 birds, and Merlin in general covers most birds in the US, Canada, Europe, common and widespread birds in Australia, New Zealand, India, Central and South America, as well as other areas. And very simply, it helps people identify birds using location, time of year, photos, and sounds. And really one of the big keys of these apps, eBird and Merlin, is that location and time of year. It allows you to take the thousands of birds that are out there and narrow it to where you are now, Barrington, Illinois, and on January 25th. What are the likely birds you're going to see at that time? You don't have to sift through 11,000. That's going to bring it down to maybe just dozens. They recently released their annual report, and in that, they said that in 2025, 16 million people used Merlin, and more than 2.5 million saved 55 million bird identifications to their life lists. That's a 50% increase over the previous year. That is just astounding to me. Sound ID heard 1.36 billion bird detections by 11.6 million people. It's global. And they're adding range maps soon for all birds, and this is great because you can see where birds live, where they migrate to and travel for breeding season. So that'll be a great addition when they have all those on there. Okay, why use eBird? Again, it's free, Merlin Bird ID. Again, it's free like eBird. Interestingly, the team designing both eBird and Merlin decided that they would rather build a community than revenue. And so they determined it was more valuable to offer Merlin free in exchange for an email address. And this decision led to far more downloads of bird photos, bird sounds, and especially in countries where a fee might be a significant barrier to using the app. So that was great that they did that. The app is portable. It's on your smartphone. It's easy to use out of doors. You just need to make sure that when you're in Wi-Fi that you download the bird packs to your phone. That way the bird descriptions, photos, sound recordings, data, all sorts of information is right there on the internal memory of your phone. So you don't need Wi-Fi when you're out in the field. It's fairly accurate, and we'll talk a little bit about that more later. It's educational. What I think is wonderful is I know families that use it together in their backyards. Children, as well as all the way to senior citizens, can use this app. It's easy to use, and you can learn bird names, bird song, bird behavior. It's a wonderfully educational app. And lastly, it supports conservation, which is important to all of us. It promotes bird research, conservation efforts, and education. Okay, jump down here. Okay, so when Merlin launched in 2014, there was only one option for identifying birds, and that was their wizard. Okay, and wizard is a five-question process for identifying the bird that you're looking at. So just as a brief explanation, the first thing you're going to do if you want to use Merlin is you're going to download the app either from your Google store or your Apple store. You're going to immediately set your location and download those bird packs. You want that memory, you want that information on the internal memory on your phone. And then you can fine tune it from there, depending on what other settings you'd like. Then you could immediately begin using Wizard. And so when you opened the app at that time, when Wizard was your only option, you would immediately select where you're at, again, narrowing that list of thousands of birds. What day is it? And then you answer 3 more questions. How big is the bird? What color is the bird? And what is the bird doing? Is it on a feeder? Is it in a tree? Is it soaring overhead? And then Merlin takes that information and gives you a list of potential birds you're seeing at that time. In this case, I chose a bird that was about the size of a robin or a sparrow. I used 3, you can use as many as 3 colors. I used red, black, and white. And it was at my feeder, and Wizard gave me a downy woodpecker. The next option was hairy woodpecker. So I could really study the bird. I could see the smaller beak. I knew I had a downy woodpecker. So I could save it to my list. Okay. All right. Then the next addition to the Merlin Bird ID was Merlin Photo ID. This is what it looks like if you pull it up on your phone. Merlin Photo ID was launched in 2017, and it was just recently updated in 2024, which significantly impacted its ability to identify thousands of species globally. Just a brief, and I'm not a scientist, but I think it's so interesting how they are able to take this technology and help you identify the bird through the photo. What they do is they use photo identification models, and they run thousands of images for each species and look for patterns that are shared between all the photos of one single species. So with enough images, the Photo ID tool can correctly identify birds in different postures and from different angles. If you're a photographer, Cornell's always looking for photos to help them continue to expand their identification model. And there's ways to do that. We can talk to you about it afterwards. So Merlin Photo ID, again, was the next iteration. You've already got the app on your phone. You just open it, and you see that you have the option to upload a photo. You can either take a picture and upload that, or you can use an existing photo that's on your phone. Then follow the prompts. You want to make sure you got that picture in that frame zoomed quite a bit so it can get a good look at it. Then you're going to confirm your date and location again. Where is it? Where are you? And what time of year is it? And then you tap identify. These are eastern bluebirds in my backyard, and it very correctly answered that that's what I had taken a picture of. I don't know about you, Laura, but I find that Photo ID, I often only get one option. It's pretty accurate. I don't get a list of different options birds, but,
It's gotten a lot better
oh, it's, yeah,
over time.
absolutely. Okay, the next iteration is Merlin Sound app, and that was launched in 2021, and it's amazing. It identifies bird sounds through machine learning to recognize sounds based on a spectrogram. And if you look at the image in the center, you can see at the top there, that's the spectrogram. That's a visual representation of sound. Thousands of recordings from eBird contributors help train Merlin to recognize the spectrogram of each individual bird. So again, you've got the app on your phone. Now you're going to decide, I'm hearing bird song in my yard. What is it that I'm hearing? You just tap the green button. That's the microphone. It's a good idea to hold it toward where the song or the call or the chip is coming from. It's helpful if there isn't other noise going on because that can impact identification. But once it starts recording, that spectrogram is going to pop up, and it's going to show you potential bird matches in real time. So you can see that list that comes up. It's not often, well, depending on the time of year, you can often have multiple birds singing at the same time that Merlin Sound ID is going to pick up. So to confirm the one you're hearing, you can tap on the suggested bird on the list, and then it allows you to listen to Merlin's version of it. So you can compare and contrast, am I hearing that same bird? If it is, go ahead and click on it, and you can save it as a part of your sightings. I included this little image of bird mnemonics on the right. And the reason for that is, while Laura and I both agree Sound ID is amazing, we do think it's important, if you can, to work on learning bird song. And people can do it by repetitively listening to bird song over and over again, or mnemonics, which is kind of fun. The bird in the upper left corner, the little yellow bird, that is a warbler, a yellow warbler. And when they sing, their song sounds like, sweet, 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 I'm so sweet. And so if you listen to that enough and you kind of have that in your head, you can work on identifying different birds. Would anybody care to guess what the most heard North American bird that Merlin heard in 2025? Bingo. The American robin. I know when we were testing it with different people, we had somebody say red-winged blackbird, European starling, but it is the robin. And that's one of the neat things about Merlin too, is you can see what other countries are hearing the most as well. Right. So Merlin accuracy. Again, in their annual report, Cornell Lab said that the Merlin photo ID is 98% accurate. And I absolutely agree. I think it works very, very well. Merlin Sound ID is widely considered accurate. However, it has to be in ideal conditions and it's not infallible. You really need to verify it yourself for definitive identification. And a good example of that is if you look at the pictures in the corners, you've got the blue jay on the bottom right, and it's a mimic, much like the northern mockingbird, a European starling, and they can make a song that sounds just like another bird. For instance, a Cooper's hawk in the upper left-hand corner. And Laura has a wonderful audio. We couldn't get it to play loud enough here, but she was in her yard. She's got her Merlin on. It's saying Cooper's hawk, and she's looking at the blue jay singing, right? So it's always best practice to use Merlin in general as a starting point because you always want to independently verify each suggestion before reporting it, primarily because then this information is going to go to Cornell, and you really want the information you're sharing to be accurate. They're using this for science, right? So we don't want to send them inaccurate information. So anyway.
I think that blue jay knew what it was doing. By being a Cooper's hawk, which hunts other birds,
Yes, yep.
They tend to scatter and
it gets the food.
Yeah, and so he gets all those little birds to panic and leave, and then he gets in there and gets all the good peanuts.
They're very good at red-tailed hawk too.
Yeah,
I have a real hard time with that, but it makes it fun. I mean, it makes it challenging and interesting.
Okay. So one of the last apps under the Cornell umbrella, I guess, is NestWatch. It's a website and an app, and it is primarily used for tracking your bird observations. It is a breeding bird website and app. And rather than being used for identification, we use it for keeping track of breeding birds. We use this on all of our eastern bluebird and purple martin trails, but you can use it in your own backyard. It helps Cornell with the research on what birds are breeding where and the outcomes of nesting attempts. So if you're in your yard, you have a house wren nest or a robin's nest, a cardinal nest, you know where there's a great horned owl nest, keep track of what you see, the dates that the eggs are laid approximately, when you think that they're being fed, and you can input it on Nest Watch, and it will help them with their breeding bird research. To participate in Nest Watch, you can use the website or the app, same sign-in credentials. When you go to Nest Watch, it will ask you to take a little course and then give you a certification quiz. They want to make sure that anybody who's out there monitoring breeding birds is doing it correctly and not putting the birds in danger or disturbing them. A lot of times we will just snap a quick picture of the nest and get out of there so we don't disturb them, and you can input the data later. So just go out, find a nest, monitor, put the data in, and community science.
And we want to put a little plug in for our Citizens for Conservation Nestbox monitors who use the Nestbox app. We have wonderful volunteers that go out once a week between April and August, and they monitor eastern bluebirds and purple martins, which I think was mentioned earlier, on several of the CFC properties. Both of these species are cavity nesters, so they rely heavily on humans or human-made structures and for human management for their survival. Weekly checks allow monitors to remove invasive species like the house sparrow and record data, which we then share with Cornell via the website or the app. And you can see some of the data we collect is how many nesting sites do we have, how many nesting attempts, the number of eggs, the total young, and then the fledged young. And it's, if you have any interest in being involved, please talk to us afterwards. It is incredibly rewarding. You're helping a species survive and thrive. You're contributing to science. And there's really something special about witnessing egg laying, hatching, nestlings, and eventually fledging.
I do just want to add that the Nest Watch app is really user-friendly. I don't know, Steve, I think, you know, when you're taking it out in the field, it's very seamless. It's much better than clipboards and papers and pencils and soggy paper. And
Yeah, works
it's
very well.
very easy to use. So, okay. All right, next we're going to talk about some of the field guide apps we use for bird identification. Two of our favorites, David Sibley's Bird 2nd edition and the Warbler Guide. Sibley is just an amazing illustrator, and his illustrations in these books are incredible. It's really a good app or guide in general for identifying field marks. He'll emphasize different things that are particular to a certain species and give you comparisons to similar species. It's very helpful. The Warbler Guide is, well, if you've birded, you know how difficult warblers can be. And this is all warblers, all sides, all angles, ends of tail feathers to bits of wings. And it's just all plumages, all time of year, all over the world. It's about 300 pages, and it's in an app on your phone. And it's just amazing. So we used to have to carry these, like Ellen, we used to have to carry these field guides with us all over the place, and it get heavy. And so just to have these, you know, on your phone is really remarkable. The Sibley Guide is $19.99, and the Warbler Guide is $12.99. It's a one-time payment, and again, you can use them across all your different platforms. The other field guide we like is the Audubon Field Guide. It's free. It uses photos for the most part rather than drawings. You can put in field marks, and it will give you suggestions. You can find song clips. It will connect you to eBird sightings. And the text is all by a birding expert named Ken Kaufman. The other free app that we like to use is called PhoneScope. It's Barb will give you some examples. You buy this attachment for your scope or your binoculars or your camera, whatever you're using.
It's right on it.
And it fits on to the scope. And what it allows you to do is get great pictures from a great distance. So it helps a lot with bird identification for when those birds are way out there and you don't stand a chance of getting a good look at them.
Exactly.
So it helps to have multiple field guides. Even though we have these apps, we also still have all these books. And it's just, it really helps to have a number of different guides. They all offer something different. You might have a better luck with photos. Some of you might find the drawings more useful. Some emphasize field marks more than others. You can compare, some books will have a page of just similar looking species, so you can compare and contrast right next to each other. It really comes down to personal preference, but the more the better in my mind.
Agreed. All right, so phone scope again is a device you put on your phone and then you use it with the phone scope app. And I've got a couple videos here that I've filmed using the phone scope. What I like about it is we're able to observe birds in their natural habitat from a distance. So we're not bothering them. We're not disrupting their normal behavior. And let's see if I can get it to. Yeah, but it's not doing it. Trying to get it full screen. This is a hooded warbler. Let's see if I can get it to get bigger. The one in the center is a northern hawk owl. Keep your eye on that one. We're easily a football field away from that bird. But he is high up. You can see he's looking around. This is up in northern Minnesota at Saxon Bog. He's hungry. He's looking around for something to eat in a minute. Bird on the right is indigo bunting. See if that owl will keep your eye on him. Almost there. It was worth it when we. There you go. And again, what's really great about this is, if I can, why that's doing that. What's really great about that is keeping the distance and respecting the creature. You know, we don't want to do anything to bother them, especially in breeding season, or in this case where, you know, this bird is hunting, it's hungry. We don't want to bother it, but we still want to look at it. We still want to study its behavior, and we can do that wonderfully with a phone scope attachment and the phone scope app. So now there's some new fun technology out there. I don't know if anybody has these devices. The first is the Bird Buddy. It's a smart bird feeder equipped with a built-in camera, and it captures high resolution photos and video. Does anybody have one of these? Okay. Yeah. Do you enjoy it? I think it's so much fun. And you're kind of, do you like it? Oh. Okay. Well, I think I get a lot of common North American backyard birds at mine, but during migration, I get some interesting birds. So it's good to keep an eye on it. And it's very simple to use. You can see that one has a solar roof. Otherwise, you plug it in, and it's app-based. So it sends the photos or the videos right to your phone. And the one on the right is a haiku box. Does anybody have a haiku box? Okay. Well, haiku box is another AI-powered device that records 24/7 birds in your yard in real time. And I think one of our birding friends, Susan Barrett, has one, and she says it's just amazing because it's recording all day, all night, and especially during migration, she's getting some really interesting reports. This one does require a subscription, and it requires Wi-Fi, and it's a little bit sensitive. You've got to put it in a place out of the wind and that kind of thing. But she said it's really amazing to use and well worth the effort.
Okay, since we talked about how important it is to keep distances and how some of these apps can help you do that, we thought we'd go over just a few best birding practices. So obviously, the birds come first. Always put the best interest of the birds first by not disturbing them. So that means keeping distance as much as possible. Don't handle the birds' eggs or the nests unless you are a trained monitor and that's what you're setting out to do. Limit playback and pishing. It can be very disruptive to the birds when they're trying to be on territory or finding a mate or finding food, and they get distracted by someone who they think is a predator or another mate, perhaps. So we want to limit how much we disturb them. Same with the amount of time you spend watching a bird. I mean, if you're at a great distance and the bird is not even aware you're there, that's one thing, but you don't want to spend too much time on one bird. So respect the habitats, stay on the trails, try not to damage any habitat if you're out walking, be a good role model so that others on the trails can see the way it's done. Be mindful with photography. Use the longest lens you have and avoid getting very close to the birds. Avoid flushing the birds. We know that happens accidentally all the time. That's different, but don't flush a bird just to get a photograph. And don't bait the birds. And also give back. So, contribute to citizen science with all of your data and exploration. Thank you.
Okay, just want to roll back briefly because I realized I missed one thing that I really wanted to share with you. Let's see if I can go back really quickly because I dropped my notes behind the podium. But there we go. Okay, I think I can read this. So one of the things we wanted to touch on is technology's impact on birding. And there's a lot of discussion in the birding world about, do we like this, do we not like this? Pros and cons. And one of the pros that I'd like to highlight is its accessibility for people with disabilities. And that's why Merlin and eBird are wonderful. And I read this article recently by Andrew J. Lewis, who is a lifelong birder, and he's a technician by trade, but he himself has become disabled. And what he said was, Merlin is also quietly one of the most accessible tools I've ever used. If your body is unusable or your eyes, or excuse me, if your body is unable or your eyes aren't sharp, you can listen. If your hearing is not great, you can follow the spectrogram or read the names. If you are neurodivergent, the structure and clarity can light up your brain in the best way. And if you're just someone trying to feel connected again, to place, to rhythm, to the world, Merlin delivers. And I just think that's such a wonderful thing because Merlin really is for everyone. So I just want to make sure we got that one in there. Sorry, I missed it earlier. And now, thank you. Any questions? This is so weird.
Wait. One of the things that I really like that they've added to eBird is that you can put in a picture of the location and you can also upload other wildlife. But the other thing I like about the Merlin, when you do a photo ID, is like on your Eastern Bluebird, it showed that there were 8 other photos. And so we might all know what the male looks like, but what does that immature look like? And when you go across and look at the photos, you get the female, the male, the immature, flying, all possibilities, which is super cool.
The flying pictures are really helpful.
That's an excellent point, Edith, because I think so often when we look at birds, we're looking at a male bird in breeding plumage. And so by scanning through the photos that are available, you can recognize the female and then the juveniles. So very good point.
I should also add that when you're on the eBird mobile app, another free tool is if you just click on the bird name, it will take you to a little infographic from All About Birds, which is Cornell's bird information website. And so then you're in the field, that's immediate. So
we always encourage people to use these apps, and especially Merlin during migration. If you just go in your backyard and turn it on, you might be amazed at what you have in your trees and in your backyard. Birds that are only making their way through to their breeding locations could be traveling through your yard for a rest, get a little something to eat before they take that next leg of their journey.
To that point last spring, I was.
I was sitting on my deck with Merlin on just for the sound, and it picked up 8 birds, and I could only see 3 kinds, but they were in the trees. I would never have known they were there without knowing about the sounds.
It's really helpful when we're out on bird hikes too, because sometimes we're focused on certain things, and Merlin will pick up apps or birds being heard in the background that we were not even focusing on because we were so busy looking at something else. So it's a really great tool for just being more aware of your surroundings and what else could be out there.
Anyone else? If you don't work with Barb like I do and can't take a picture of the bird on your deck and go, what is that? Anything else? Hold on, Charlie, I'll come to you.
More questions? More questions.
One more question.
I know I've done some rescues of owls. Do you have any details on that to make sure that they're survive?
Rescue of owls.
Owlets, baby owls
Uh-huh.
that have fallen out of the nest.
Right.
I think sure what he's asking.
The communication for rescuing owlets that fall out of the nest to get them back in the nest.
Well, I believe it's true that handling baby birds does not automatically cause them to be rejected by the parent. But in that situation, if the bird is too young to be on its own, I would call a rescue wildlife rescue. Bird collision monitors work all over the Chicago area. Flint Creek Wildlife Rescue, and I know there's a couple more. But I think a lot of times with young owls, they appear to not be old enough to be out of the nest, but they really are. They can climb pretty well, and as long as they can get up to a roost on their own, the parents will continue to take care of them.
And there are bird species that fledge but can't fly yet. So they may be on the ground for 2 or 3 days. I had a cardinal nest and the babies fledged, and they were on my driveway for about 2 or 3 days. And we just were very, very careful because then eventually they took off. So, yeah.
We've had fledglings hop out of our nest boxes before, which is always terrifying, but usually we can just pick them up and put them back in, and they jump out again, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, if we have no further questions, if we can give all 3 of our presenters a big hand. And I did just real quickly, I brought some books out for you, which is, when you're sitting at home studying can be nice. And for those of you who are, so these are available for checkout if any of you are interested. And what occurred to me was for the people who are at home, who are Barrington Area Library card holders, on the Libby app, we have a number of, a surprising to me number, 254 things came up when I put in bird identification, including field guides for, I got up to like 20 states, and then I saw Maine, which is where my kid lives. So that's where I stopped. But all of these are available. So if you're going on a trip, check and see if we have a guide for where you're going. Kind of a neat aspect of it.
I think, Laura, you said that when you're traveling, you can download bird packs, and you could have seen that on my slide too. I was in Mexico a year ago, and I downloaded that bird pack and was able to identify birds there.
These do take up a lot of room. But you can offload them and then
Yeah, when you're done.
reload them when you're ready to go.
Okay, great.
Thank you all for coming. Thank our presenters. We're glad, Ellen and Barb and Laura, thank you so much for being here on this cold day. Nice and warm in here. I'm afraid we all have to go back out into the cold, but thanks for sitting here.
But not right away. If you'd like to stick around a few minutes, I know there were a couple people who had questions for CFC before we started, and there'll be folks here. Actually, can I have the CFC members identify themselves real quickly? Okay, so the person who asked me a question, you can pretty much ask anyone else in the room except me, and they will be able to help you. and there's more snacks and coffee and things of that sort. I am going to wrap up the Zoom at this point. So thank you very much.